Hit record and then we can go. Okay. Well, we're going to kick this off so that Yolanda and I think this might be a bit of a longer call than we initially thought. So if you do have to hop off, feel free to hop off. But we would love for you to stay to the end and we'll try and condense as much as we can tonight. So we're super excited, guys. We were just in Prague, as I'm sure all of you know. We, in summer, were part of, and we're still part of, something called Diamond Dash. So it's been run by Allyse Sedivy. We had to qualify. They picked us, and they turned down, 150 other people, which is incredible, first of all. And then every week we've had like homework and assignments and all kinds of stuff. And let me just say, the training that we were in while we were in Prague was the most intense training I've ever taken. Okay. Yeah, like there was a lot of fear there. And at certain times throughout the week, there was a lot of fear and there was a lot of things that was expected of us. And moving forward for the next 90 days, there's a ton more that's expected from Yolanda and I. That being said, the initial first few days, well, all of it was mind-blowing, but the first few days, it was so clear why so many of us, me included, have been like doing the things and not getting the results that we want. It's like we've been spinning our wheels. We've been, we've been sampling here and there. We've been teaching classes and just, we haven't had the success that we want, especially lately. Like there's been this common thread that people are like, oh, like classes don't work in person anymore. Sampling doesn't work anymore. You got to find or reinvent the wheel or take another program, things like that. And it was very clear that we honestly have everything we need. We've probably, and I'm sure most of you have been taught all of these things at some point, but it was just the way that it was presented and the follow through and the process from start to finish that we kind of were missing. So we're not trying to introduce you to a new program or a new concept or new ideas. Okay, if any of you started kind of about the same time as Yolanda and I, it may make a little bit more sense. And if you're newer to the doTERRA business, this will probably be easier for you because you don't have any of the habits that some of us who have been in this a long time have. So honestly, at this point with what we have, I could probably sit my 11-year-old down and give him all the stuff and he could do it. Like that's how simple it's going to be once you wrap your head around this whole idea. Okay. So it might take you, a day or two to just kind of sit with it and for it to sink in. But it's there and it's done for you and there's scripts for everything. And it's just this beautiful process that if you start it with a sample or with a list and you finish every single step, like I'm talking, don't miss a step, you'll see what we mean, that you will have an amazing enrollment every single time. And you'll have classes upon classes and you won't know where to put them. Seriously, no joke. So her and I have started and are starting this process a bit earlier. And what we're hoping to do is to roll it out to you guys because we want you to be successful with us. But you'll just be kind of delayed a bit. So I'm a big believer that if I'm telling you to do something or if I'm suggesting you do something, that I've either done it or I'm doing it. And so we are doing this with you guys, all of it, every single step of the way. So yeah, so what we're going to do is I'm going to pass this over to Yolanda and she's going to give you a little bit more insight on why we've been spinning our wheels on this whole thing.
All right, let me pull this up. How do I make this bigger? It made the wrong one bigger. Sorry. Uh, ta-da. There it is. Okay. So, like Brett was saying, it was just so clear to us that doing things the way that Allyse Sedivy does them is a no-brainer. And Allyse, first of all, she's a triple diamond. She knows what she's doing. She has 3 like presidential diamond organizations. So she has been building this business for a long time, almost since the beginning, 10 years in so many different countries, and she knows what works. She's basically been able to like test the market and see what works for people, what's the most effective way to get things done. And she kind of called this presentation ineffective versus effective building. That's what the name of it is, or the elite cycle. And so I want to just like quickly walk you through what most of us have been doing in our businesses up until this point, and what simple changes we can make to make all of the efforts that we're doing, all of the things that we're pouring into our business more effective. So we're not here to try to teach you a new system, like Brittany said. What we're here to do is to make you more efficient at the things you're already doing. So if you're already doing pipes, if you're already preparing and inviting and presenting, this is going to be seamless. This is going to be able to integrate just like really well to what you're already doing. So we wanted to make that clear because we don't want you guys to be afraid, like, oh my gosh, how many times have we learned a new system and had to start over? It's not at all like that. Instead, I just want to show you very simply how this kind of plays out. Okay, so most of the time, if you're looking to book a class or you're hosting a class at your house, you'll think, okay, I need to invite some people. We all know not everybody's going to show up when you're hosting a class. So you typically invite more people than you have seats for. So say, for example, you wanted 10 people to come to your class. You're likely going to invite around 30 with the hopes of 10 in attendance. Does this make sense? So we get 10 people out to the class. And our goal when we're going into that class is obviously we want to enroll everybody. We think, okay, great, we have 10 people. I'm going to enroll 10 people with the kit. How often do we have 100% close rate? I have had that, I think, once, maybe twice, where every single person has purchased a kit. But typically, I don't know if you can see that behind the screen here. Typically, you'll have 3 people at your class who will actually come. So not just enroll, but typically 3 people will come to your class. Of those 3 people who are sitting in the room with you, and we've all had this, right? Like you think, oh, this class is going to be amazing. We're going to have so many people. And then there's hardly anybody who shows up. Of those 3 people, on average, the most popular kit in all of doTERRA is the Family Essential Collection. So as much as we want to enroll people with home essentials and natural solutions, that's just not what's always happening. So you enroll somebody with one Family Essential kit, and basically they have put in that one-time order, and you made $23. And then on that order, typically we'll see about a quarter of our people get on LRP from those enrollments. And if that's the case, then the average LRP, which was actually a surprising number to me. She said the average LRP across doTERRA is 100 PV. But that's another, if you're still in your 60-day period, you're making another $20 off of that order. And then just 15% of those LRPers will end up going on to build or share. So total volume from one class, because you're adding up your volume of your home essentials kit as well as your volume from your PV from the LRP and potential people building, all of that in one is about 161 OV from one class. That's not great. And if you don't do a wellness consult, the chances of them going on LRP are slim to none. So how many classes would we need to teach a month if this is what we're looking at as an average OV of an average class, the way that we've been doing things? We can see, oops, it's going around again. Here we go. That if we were to do it this way, we would have to teach 18 classes. And when you backtrack back around the circle, in order to get 18 classes full of 3 people, you'd have to talk to 559 people. Okay, so this is a hypothetical, but I think a lot of you can probably relate to this. You're looking at these numbers going like, yeah, like this is what's happening. I invite like 30, 40, 50 people, and I have a couple show up, and I'm only enrolling one of them. And LRP rates are not great. So according to Allyse Sedivy, there is a better way of building. Her suggestion is to sample 20 people. So we're not just talking to them. We're not just sending out a cold invite to a contact who has never, ever experienced essential oils. What we're doing is we're creating a situation where people have had a good experience with an essential oil before they ever come to a class. This was a new concept to me because I built my entire business by asking other people to host classes for me, and then they invite their friends. That means that I have no contact with those guests prior to this, this class. And that means that most of them, on average, have never, ever tried doTERRA. Sometimes I have a few people in the class who have tried it and loved it. And you've probably seen this happen too, that when that happens, their testimonials go a long way with the rest of the people in the group. Their testimonials are powerful. And so the purpose of sampling 20 people when you only want 10 to come to your class is because about half of those people will have a good experience and accept your invite. So we're just going on averages based on Allyse's experience. This is the averages that she has seen in her business. So you sample 20 people, you hope to invite 10 to the class. Now here is where it differs greatly. When you teach the class the way that Allyse teaches the class, your enrollment rates are going to go through the roof. Here's why. The class is simple, it's not confusing, it's very straightforward. The class is interactive, so people are excited and they're engaged and they're participating in the class. And then she gets the people in the class to stand up and share a testimonial of how they use the essential oils and how it benefited them. So then they are in this class sharing a positive experience that they've had. At that point in the class, you come because you've had a good experience. You stand up and tell everybody in the class that you've had a good experience. And then you sit down at the end of the class and kind of work on your own personal health goals. You are very likely to purchase. You are considered a hot lead at that point. And 8, her close rate is on average 80% of people who come to her classes not only attend, but then 60% of those people will enroll. These numbers are so much better than what I've been seeing in my business. I don't know about you, but typically you get to the end of a class where you've had no sales and you probably sit down and think, that was a really big waste of my time. I spent all day cleaning. I spent all week inviting. I made brownies and punch, and I made 23 bucks. But this way, the effective way, you're going to notice just how much time you're saving because of how effective the whole process becomes. So let's say that 6 of them enroll. You've made $138 on those kits. We're still banking on the Family Essential Kit being the average. 3 of them will go on LRP because if you follow the steps of this system, you're going to be doing your membership overviews, and that's going to make all the difference. 1 of those 3 people will typically become a builder or a sharer because at the end of every class, you're going to be doing a very short business overview. And the total volume generated from that one class, when you add it all up, becomes 1,290. And because some of that is residual volume, some is that is on LRP, you've really seen a huge change happen. So this is massively different than what we were seeing before. In order to hit elite with this model, you would need to teach 2.5 classes, 2 or 3 decent classes, and you would only need to sample or talk to 46 people. So we wanted to show you guys this just to point out why we want to share this process with you. Why is it important to us to show you these steps and help you become more effective? Because don't we all want to do something with less time and more results? It seems like a no-brainer to me. All right. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And yeah, Britt, I think you're up next we're going to talk about sampling.
Okay, so those of you who I can see, and even those of you who don't have your screen on, how many of you sample? Like, be honest, like, how many of you sample? Like, wave at me if you're sampling, or like type in the chats if you're sampling. Yes, some no, some sometimes. So for me, I'm going to tell you what I usually do. So I've sampled. I'm not sampled. And then I just sample when I feel like it lately. So that's being totally honest. But I can tell you that I never really grasped, like, really the reason why I would sample. Like, I got the fact that, like, if I sampled somebody, then they would experience it, right? And then I would grab them, kind of thing. But I never really fully understood, like, the system or the process, or follow the whole thing through. So if you don't normally sample, or you kind of sometimes sample, this is where we're going to get really good at sampling, guys. And you're going to have really good results with sampling. Okay. So basically, this whole process we're going to teach you starts with a sample. And the only way you can go on to the next step, meaning invite them to a class, is if they've had a good experience with the sample you've given them. If they haven't tried it, or if they haven't had a good experience, you cannot invite them to a class. Okay? And you're going to see why. That's just, we want everybody at a class to have a good experience with the oils, so that they already have an idea in the mind that they're effective and they're working, and they can share their story, and they can share with everybody else. And they're kind of, you're not even selling them on the oil. They're going to be selling themselves on the oils and each other on the oils by the end of this. So let's talk a little bit about sampling and kind of the steps leading up to that and what's kind of involved. Can we do, and let me go to the chat. Yeah, can we do this for an invite for a one-on-one? Absolutely. So the idea with this is, no matter if it's a one-on-one or like a group, you cannot actually, you're not supposed to talk about like the oils beyond the sample you've given them. Like, you're not supposed to teach them about the oils until they've had that good experience. Okay, so it's totally pre-qualifying them. They have to experience it first. And this is where your follow-up's going to get good as well. And it's not necessarily always going to even seem as much of a follow-up as it has in the past, or what I've come to I don't know, understand and to feel, is that it doesn't feel as awkward to follow up. And I don't know if it's because we've got the scripts in front of us and we practice the scripts, or if it's just because the process is so seamless and just makes sense, right? So 100 name contact list, sampling, inviting, following up, all of this is still important. We're just going to tweak it a bit, and we're going to go kind of in order. So starting with your 100 contact list. How many of you right now have a current contact list of people? So that's where we're going to start with. Okay. And again, this is nothing new. We've all heard, write your 100 contacts list out. So if you haven't done it lately, or if you're just starting to do it, or maybe you have it, what I want you guys to make sure that you do is put every single person you know on there. Okay. They might have oils already. They might be interested in oils. They might never be interested in oils. You might be terrified to talk to them. It might be like, write down every single person you know, and we'll worry about figuring out who we're going to actually talk to about oils after that. So if you need, more insight on, who to contact or who to write down, then there's, just Google 100 contact list, doTERRA names list kind of thing, and that will give you ideas. But I literally want you to write down as many people as you know. All of you know way more than 100 people. You do. Think about, like, in your week, how many people you actually like wave hi to or say hi to or where you go. Okay, so literally write down everything, and then don't worry about the story that you're telling yourself about this person not wanting to be not interested in doTERRA. Just put them down anyways, because then we want to rank each of them. How many of you rank your people right now, or know about, like, ranking your people? Okay. Oh, what about people we used to know? Yep, write down people we used to know. Anybody who comes to mind, anybody you've ever talked to, you can write down. People you sold oils to and lost contact with? Absolutely, for sure. Yeah, those are good ones. Okay, so the idea, once you have your list, and if you can, I would do a spreadsheet. I'm not a spreadsheet type of person, but it will make sense because there's lots of columns and lots of things you can just check off. And I think, I don't know if I have one that I can share with you guys. But we'll get one for you. We'll get one posted if you don't have one, a spreadsheet or something that you can use. So you're going to rank everybody, and it's basically like a star system from 1 to 7. And if you've listened to the daily mentor calls already, some of them, this would have already, you probably heard this already, but it might not totally make sense until we go through it a little bit more. So beside everybody's names, we know that the majority of people who purchase doTERRA are female. They are between the ages of 30 and 55. They have a money, a time, or a purpose need for the oils or for the products or for the business. They're interested in natural things. They have some sort of business or sales experience. They're some kind of influential person, socially influential. Their friends listen to them, follow directions. Their friend, usually there's some sort of influencer in their crowd of people. And they have a supportive spouse. So you personally might not fall into all those categories. And a lot of your contacts might not fall into all those categories. But think about typically the people who you invite to classes when you first start your business or your sample to. A lot of people will start with their immediate family and their closest friends, right? Like their mom and their sister and all of that. And a lot of times, those contacts maybe meet like 3 of these characteristics. And so if you're inviting those people or sampling those people initially, and they only meet 3 out of the 7 typical criteria, then your chances of actually, besides that pity purchase that your mom is buying a kit for you so you can get started, but the chances of them actually purchasing are really low. Whereas if you were to rank your entire list and you were to pick the top, let's say 20 people who have 6 or 7 of these characteristics, okay, the chances of you being successful on them coming to a class and on them enrolling and on them wanting to do the business are that much greater. So a lot of times when we launch new builders, we're like, write out your 100 contacts list, and typically they're going to invite the people they feel safest or most comfortable with. And in reality, what we want them to do is not think about, who we actually want to come to our first class and who we're comfortable with, but we want to think about the people who fall into these 7 categories, these 7 characteristics, because that will be a successful class. It's much better, especially if you have somebody who's brand new that you're launching, so they don't get discouraged. And so that's like, okay, like I just invited all these people and my mom bought a kit and that's it kind of thing. Okay. Whereas if you could guarantee a successful turnout and a successful purchase because they've met these criteria, this is what we want to start with. These are the people who we want to sample first. Yeah, we want to sample 20 people, 30, 40, 50 people. But what if you only were to sample 10 and they were like good quality 10 people, right? The effort that you're putting into sampling is going to be way less than if you were just randomly picking and going through your entire list and not really strategically rating everybody. So make sure you guys go and check out the daily mentor calls. It actually lists those 7 characteristics. And I'm not saying they have to fall into all those characteristics, but that's the idea. Right? So if you have 5, 6, or 7 of those, if one of your contacts meets 5 out of 7 or more, then those are the people that you're going to start contacting, and those are the people you're going to start sampling first, because we know that those people are most likely to buy. Okay? So we've got our spreadsheet, we've got our names, we've ranked them, we've listed them. Okay? Now you have to figure out how you're going to contact them. So you can talk to them in person. You can hop on the phone, you can text them, you can email them, you can go through social media. And if you check out the daily mentor calls, there are scripts for all those, each individual things, all of them. Okay. So, and I think it's actually, I'm just pulling up these daily mentor calls. Yeah, it's like closer to the beginning. It's like 5 or 6, one of those. And then I'll teach you how to contact people from your sample list. Okay, let me just follow through on my notes. Okay, now, when you are ready to sample somebody, so one thing to remember, samples are free. If any of you were in the back to school promo and we were charging for shipping and packaging and in oil, and things like that. So you sample for free. This is going to change some of you. You're going to sample 1 oil at a time. Just 1. Only 1. Not 2 or 3. You're going to sample 1 oil at the time, and you want them to focus on the results that they get from that 1 oil. How many people get like 2 or 3 oils and they're just like excited? They get this little package and they're excited to try all of them. And so they don't actually sometimes know what results they're getting from the oils, because they're either trying them all at the same time or they're trying them differently. So we want to think about sampling 1 oil at a time. And we want to sample to 1 health challenge at a time. And typically we're sampling to something where they're going to get a quick result, right? So if you ask somebody what their health challenges were and they listed off like headaches and high blood pressure, you're going to pick the headaches rather than the high blood pressure, right? Because we want this sample to work quickly and effectively right away. We don't want to have to wait, for a longer period of time. We want it to be a simple and effective result that they're getting. And then just using a small sample dram and, just your typical like 10 to 20 drops kind of thing. Okay. So those are the things and the way that we see the tools that we're using and how we're kind of shifting and changing the way that we're sampling. So making sure, again, you have your 100 contact list. You're going to rate them with that 1 to 7 stars. We want to sample people who are have 5 or more stars. Okay. We're going to sample with 1 oil at a time. And you're going to sample to 1 health challenge at a time. And then from there, we want them to have a really good experience. So we are going to, Yolanda, do we have the script up? Is this what is this where we're going to role play?
I was muted. 1 sec. Do you want me to put it on the screen?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
Or you can, I guess. Okay, so how many people like role playing?
Nobody.
Carolyn does. So most of you are like avoiding eye contact right now. Don't worry, we're not going to make you do it right now. So I used to be somebody who absolutely hated even the idea of role playing. It was like, you want me to role play? No, thank you. Just made me uncomfortable, and I just felt cheesy doing it, and it was like, this is ridiculous. Like, why do I need to role play?
Yeah.
But we did it, and it didn't feel like that at all. And it honestly gave you everything you need. You just follow it to a T. Like, you can read it, and it made just the most sense. And then we all know, like, when we teach a class or when we're learning anything new, the more you practice it, the better you are, and it just kind of rolls off your tongue, right? So that is the purpose of role playing. And yes, we're going to do some role playing. We might get 1 or 2 of you to role play tonight. But when we teach you guys this later on as well, it's so important to role play. So important. And you'll see why, because it just gets easier and easier. Okay. So this is one of our sampling scripts. And again, these things are in the daily mentor calls. So if you haven't seen them, you can't pull them up on your phone to actually see the scripting. But if you pull it up on your computer, it pulls it all there. So you can literally copy and paste it. You can save it to your computer. But it's right there.
It's right here in the daily mentor calls. I just copied and pasted this into my notes, so it's exactly the same.
Okay. So this is, to put this into context, this is when we're sampling and we're giving somebody the actual sample of oil. Okay. So this is, and Yolanda and I are we'll just do a quick little blurb about this so you can see how it goes. Okay. So you can read it or not read it, but just listen. So essential oils are similar to medication in this way. When you have an ailment and you go to the doctor and you receive a prescription, and if you use it and it doesn't work, you usually don't think to yourself, I'm never going to try medication again because it's all useless. What you typically think is that the medication didn't work well on your body, so you need to go back to the doctor, you need to ask for something different, something more effective, or just another option. So we've all been programmed this way, and we understand that medications affect people differently, right? So essential oils are similar in that fact, is that each oil is not going to it's not going to have the exact same effect on every single person the exact same way. So if you use an oil and you don't get the results that you're looking for, that's okay. We can try something else. If you're patient enough with essential oils, like you are with medication, we will find something that is safer, cheaper, and more effective for you.
Isn't that beautiful, you guys? Like, it just tees it up so well, because most people have no idea about essential oils. If this is their first sample, they don't understand that it's like medication. So 1, you're showing them that it's health oriented and that it can provide them relief for something that they're struggling with. And two, you're setting up the expectation that they may not have the outcome that they were hoping for. And they're not just going to quit on the first try. Because that's what halts some samples sometimes, right? Is they try it and they're like, well, it didn't work for me. Like I used it once and it did nothing. So these types of scripts, if you practice them enough, it'll help you to overcome those objections really like early. So if somebody comes back to you and they're like, oh, it didn't work, you're not stumbling. You've already set it up, and we'll show as we go through the other scripts, just kind of how this plays out and how effective it is. This is great for your new builders too, because it's giving them very simple, concrete things to say and to follow up with that makes them feel more secure about that interaction. I remember being scared to sample people in the beginning because I was worried about that. Well, what if it doesn't work for them? So this will just take all of that out of it. So then next you're going to want to tell them how to use it, and you're going to want to make sure it's very specific to the oil that you've given them. So this one isn't really a script. It's more you want to make sure that they actually know how to use the oil that you've given them. So for example, this is the one that they've put in here. When you're going to bed tonight, rub a few drops of Serenity oil onto your temples. Also, graze your pillow with your fingertips. As you lay down and take slow, deep breaths, you'll have a wonderful calm come over you. You should feel more relaxed. You should sleep better. But just remember, if you don't get the results you were hoping for, you can always try something else. I'll call you in 2 days and see how it goes. What's the best time to call? So it's a very simple and specific instructions, how to use it, how to get it out of the vial, how to apply it, what they should expect to happen, and also when you're going to follow up with them. Okay? Does that make sense? Britt, do you want to do that?
Okay. Yeah. So when we ended that call, or when we chatted with them and we gave them instructions, we asked them what time was best to follow up with them in 2 days. Okay. And you're doing that for a couple of reasons. One, so that they know that you're following up, and two, they're setting the time that's convenient. So you're not going to have to be trying, a million different times a day to just get a hold of them. And you're setting up that expectation that you're contacting them, right? It's not something new that you're going to call them up to follow up with them. You're actually going to do it. And it's creating that trust and kind of just validating that, you're a professional and you do what you say you're going to do, right? So it's really important that you make sure that you follow up with them 2 days after, okay? So you have to get on the phone and you have to follow up with them. Now, a lot of us, okay, sometimes we get our oils or samples and people don't use them, or they have a bad experience. And that's where this script is amazing for all of that as well. Okay, because remember how I said earlier is we don't want to invite them to a class until they've had a good experience. So if they've gotten an oil but they haven't used it yet, you're still not inviting them. You're waiting until they actually try it. So it goes like this. Have you had an opportunity to use whatever oil you sampled them? Yes? Yeah? And so if they say yes, there's a script that you can find below and you can follow that through. But if they say no, then there's also a script. So let's say no, that they haven't. A lot of times after 2 days, some of our people don't do it yet. A lot of them actually. So this is what you would reply to them. That's okay. Sorry. That's okay. Here's what we're going to do. When you go home tonight and start getting ready for bed, okay, you're going to repeat what you already talked about with the Serenity. You're going to take your Serenity out. You're going to put on your temples. You're going to continue exactly the same as what you said earlier. Then I'm going to give you a call in the morning and see how that goes. Okay? So it's very, very clear that you want them to use it, and you're not going to give them as many days in between now. You're going to tell them you want them to use it tonight because you're going to follow up with them the next morning. Okay? Now, that's for if they didn't use it. You're going to follow up with them the next morning. Okay? If they still say no, then you're going to go through the next script. And again, you're going to say, that's okay. Here's what we're going to do. I want you to go get that oil right now. and we'll have a little experience together while I'm on the phone with you. Okay. And then you're going to give the instructions because you want them to use it. You don't want to waste their time. You don't want to waste your time. You don't want to have this back and forth, but you do want them to use it. Now, if they do say that they used it, then you're going to ask them how their experience was. Now, we've already teed this up earlier because if they have a bad experience, we already kind of dealt with that, right? We've already kind of pre-warned them that it is possible that they might not have a good experience, okay? But if they have an amazing experience, that's great. That's what we're hoping for, and that's where the invite comes. Now, a lot of times we don't know what to say if people have a bad experience. We have teed it up already, and we have said that there's a possibility that they're not going to have a good experience, but it's like, how do you respond to that? So again, here's a few scripts here on the bottom and in the daily mentor calls that you can do. So don't react or sound surprised. Just listen to what they're telling you. Okay, this is where you really have to listen and kind of listen for clues and pull things out. And then you're going to restate back to them what they experienced, just so you can understand fully. And then you're going to follow it up with, here's what we're going to do. If you'll continue to be patient with this process, I'll be patient with you. You're going to get a different oil, and you're going to say maybe lavender for sleep instead of Serenity, or let's say vetiver. So vetiver is another one that I think you'll have great results from. I'm going to get you a sample of that one, and we'll see if that's the best oil to address your sleeping. And when we found the right oil, then you'll have something safe, natural, cost-effective to address your health need. And then you're going to send out, or you're going to give that sample to them as well. Okay? Because we don't want to go any further until they've had an experience and it's a positive experience.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you immediately have an answer to anything that can come up. So whatever they say, you're just going to be super patient and listen to all of their concerns and then basically redirect them. And I love how Allyse said that if you'll be patient with me, then I'll be patient with you. And you're just teeing up that whole conversation for them to not just shut you down immediately, but just like, hey, like, don't worry, I'm in it with you. I'm totally happy to find something that is going to work specifically for you. But what you're hoping for is that eventually they'll come to have a really cool experience, which is what we'll call the sweet spot. So that'll put them in this open-minded frame, a state of mind. They're just going to feel like ready to learn about these things because they'll be curious. Like, well, it worked. Like, you gave me that for my headache. My headache went away instantly and I felt incredible all day. What the heck was that? They're going to be ready for the invitation. So we want to find them.
Let me interrupt you.
Yeah.
Let me interrupt you for a minute. I have this sampling, for those of you who are visual, I have this sampling flow chart thing.
Oh yeah, I have
that we got. Do you have it there?
Yep.
Do you want to share that? There. So if you're a visual person, this might be like, make a lot more sense to you, right? Mm-hmm. So you're going to invite them to try the sample. You're going to deliver the sample. Check in with them 2 days. You already told them you're going to check in. You're going to check in. If they had a good experience, or if they have tried it, then you're going to go on. And if they didn't try it, then you're just going to follow them through. It's this nice, easy, simple process.
Yeah. And that whole flow chart is also in the daily mentor calls. So when you're going through 2-day follow-up, I think. Yeah. And you can just download the flow chart. So if you want to just kind of see how this goes, especially if you're teaching your new builders how to sample, then you can find that there. I love how simple it is for us to access all of this. It's very easy. Okay. Do we want to do some practicing of some sampling things, or do we want to move on to the invite? What do you think? Britt?
So I think for tonight, maybe we should just move on and just kind of introduce this whole thing. And then if anything, we could figure out how to split the Zoom rooms on another call, or just wait till the 26th?
Okay. Sounds good. So when they're in that state where they are positive and excited about their sample, they're going to want more. Now, I love that this invite is just going to tee them up for a really cool class. We're not going to get into class teaching right now, but the whole class is based around a keychain and sample drams and giving out sample drams to your guests. And they're going to get really excited about these little bottles through the process. And so as we move into teaching you guys how to teach a class, you'll see kind of how this whole thing comes full circle and just how important these teeny tiny bottles are to them. When they are in this state, you're going to want to invite them right away. So typically, as soon as you're on the phone with them, you're going to be asking them to come to a class. Make sure you have multiple classes on the books. If you only have one class and they can't make that date, that's not going to be an effective way to invite them. So always, always, always try to have 2 to 4 or more classes on the books for the month. And Allyse was saying like 2 to 4 per week is what you'll want to be trying to maintain if you can. That can include one-on-ones, of course. And if you really don't have a class date that works for them, make sure you meet them one-on-one. Now, this is going to help you actually get those people that you've sampled and invited to come to your class. So we're going to kind of talk about how to fill those seats and how and why she gets, 80 to 100% people to actually show up. So 2 days before the class, you're going to call them. Now, I have never done this. I honestly do not call anybody. I don't call my my invited guests. I just have always texted and messaged. And I can really see the value in why you would do this. So you're calling them 2 days before the class, and you're not asking them if they're coming, because you don't want to just give them the opportunity. You're like, if you ask them, hey, are you coming on Thursday? You're immediately giving them an out, because they're like, no, actually, I don't think I can make it. Right? That, if you think about your own response to a question like that, unless you were still really excited about it, it gives you an easy answer to opt out of it. So instead, you're going to talk to them like they're actually already planning on coming. So you're going to say something like this: I'm so excited for Thursday's class. I just wanted to call and give you a little bit more information about it. Or, Thursday's coming really quickly. I was just thinking that maybe we could carpool together, or something like, if you're coming, I'm so excited because I have a surprise for you. Stuff like that. I love that Allyse builds in, I have a surprise for you, to a lot of her follow-ups, because she's realized that people love surprises. So even if it's a free sample when they arrive, or like, hey, I made peppermint brownies, it sounds ridiculous, but people love that concept, and they feel special because you thought of them. They feel like you have really gone out of your way to get them to this class. So they're more likely to come. Then your next follow-up doesn't have to be a phone call. This can be a quick text, especially because you're going to do it around 2 hours before the class. And this text message is like the same type of message. I'm so excited to see you tonight. I have a surprise for you. Another trick is that you can ask them to bring something so that they feel obligated to come because they are in charge of bringing something. But you just want to get that message across, that you're pumped that they're going to be there, and you're still assuming that they're coming. You've never given them an out in this conversation. So 2 hours before, super quick, I'm so excited to see you tonight. And maybe like drop a hint of something they're going to learn, maybe something that's applicable to them. Tonight we're going to talk about headaches, and I know that that's something that you've had a concern about, because it just gives them that like preview of what is to come. Now, if they do not come, even after all of this incredible sampling and following up, if they still don't come, don't call them or text them with your disappointment. You don't want to ever let that show. Instead, you're going to show them all of your love and be like, because you were so sure that they were coming this whole time. You've only ever shown that you were like, this person is for sure coming. That's the way you've always talked through the whole process. You would obviously be concerned, right? If somebody said they were coming to a class and they just didn't show up, it shouldn't make you feel all these emotions of like guilt and wonder and like shame and thinking maybe you did something wrong. None of that is going to be crossing your mind. If someone said, I'm coming to your house and they didn't make it, you would probably be concerned that they got hurt or something, some sort of emergency came up. So you would actually text them and be like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you tonight. I'm so worried about you. Are you okay? This will help you to continue to invite them to other classes, okay? So your ideal class is going to be invite 10 and have 8 people come to your class. Allyse had also mentioned that when we're teaching these classes, you really only want 4 or 5 people per wellness advocate. So if you're looking at a class of 8 people, you're going to want to have someone from your team to join you and help you teach that class, because it's a lot easier to close 3 or 4 or 5 people than 8 to 10. It's hard to get around the room to every single person. But it is good to know that through this process, our butts and seats rate is going to go up. I'm excited about that. So sampling in and of itself is not a complicated process. I think for all of us who've been doing this a certain way, it's just going to cause us to make some tweaks. Now, I know some of you are probably tempted to hear this call and be like, I'm good. I've been building this business the way I've been building it for 3 years. I don't need anything new. I'm not super interested in changing my process. And that's fine if that's the way you want to go. But what we want to challenge you to do is to consider what your close rates have been, what your invitation rates have been. Have you been successful in the way that you're doing it? If not, consider implementing a tried and tested strategy for a time. You know, give it 3 months, give it 6 months, and really push this and see, if I do it this way, exactly the way that Allyse says to do it, what would happen? What is possible? Could I shake things up in my business? Could I create massive momentum if I just follow the steps? And this process, when you see it, is so simple that you can duplicate it again and again and again and again, which is what we want, right? We want to be able to create builders who see what we're doing. They look at the process and they're like, oh my gosh, I could do that. Because then they're going to repeat it again and again. So hopefully you guys find the value in this and are really excited to implement and duplicate. We're going to move on to a sample challenge that we want you guys to do. And then we're going to talk quick about 6 weeks to elite.
Okay. So everything that Yolanda just said, 100% agree with it all. I can see every single one of your back office volumes and enrollments and all of that stuff. And I will tell you that every single one of us, myself included, and all the presidential diamonds and double diamonds, I will tell you that in the past 6 months, everything's kind of been decreasing a bit. And what's been happening is that over the last year, year and a half, what's really been happening is we're overcomplicating things. We're always looking for a different system. We're always looking for a different way. I would say 99% of us haven't followed the sample through to the end and haven't gotten all the results that we could. So we've been getting frustrated. And if we just give this a try, the worst thing that could happen is you get the same results you've been getting, honestly. But I can pretty much guarantee you that you will be spending less time in your business and you'll be having more results, more positive results than you've had, especially had in the last 6 months. So what we want to do is we want to challenge you guys to sample 20 people. So what that entails is you need your contact list. You need to rate your contacts. Okay. You need to get your sampling supplies. So sample bottles, oils, Depending on where you are in your stage of business, you could either have an A to Z guide or a mini essential life guide, just the mini pamphlet ones. You could have one of those that you're giving to every new sampler, or you could just do a one-page document. Yolanda and I have this one-page document that we got that for those of you who don't want to spend, who can't invest in one of those little mini A to Z guides for every person you're sampling, this one-page thing you can just print out and include that. So you're at least including something. Okay, so we want to make sure we have those things and labels for like the little stickers, right? The labels for your samples. Those are the basic things that we want to use to get you going and sampling. So I'm going to give you a few other things though that you're going to want to add to this list. Okay, so you want to add the Essential Life book or whatever kind of textbook that you like to use. Now, not only do you want one of them, but you want 8 of them. And this is something that's coming up. So I would suggest the spiral bound ones. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Let me see. So these guys, these spiral bound ones, this is what you want. Okay? So I promise you they'll be super helpful. We're not going to give away it all right now, but you'll want, I'm just trying to give you a little bit of pre-warning so you can kind of, any supplies you're going to need in the next month, you can order them all at once, okay? So if you can get your hands on, 6 to 8 of these, that would be good. And that's for teaching your classes coming up. Keychains, the oil keychains, again, you want like lots and lots and lots of those. And we'll like put a list out there for you guys. So the oil keychains, you definitely want to order. Find the cheapest place. We're trying to research some cheaper places. We found some, but they're coming from China, so I don't know if they're actually going to make it quickly or not. So we're working on that still. But if you can get your hands on as many keychains as possible, that's going to be your key tool to actually booking classes off classes. Like super successful with that. What else am I missing? Am I missing something else they need to get?
Keychains, sample drams, mini Essential Life books, A to Z guides, and stickers.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So sample challenge. Your challenge is to sample 20 people in the next 2 weeks, because we're going to tee that off and prep you for what we're hoping all of you will join us in our Elite in 6 weeks. So we also want you to use these samples and sample the way that we just kind of went over. So go to the daily mentor calls, print the scripts off, and practice them. And if you're not doing it like in person, if you're doing it over the phone, just read them. Seriously, the more you read them, just read it off. It totally is easy and will just roll off your tongue like that. Okay, so let's continue on. Do you want to chat about Elite in 6?
Yep, let's do it. I'll share my screen again. One sec. And I brought it up here. There we go. Okay, so I actually had taught 6 weeks to Elite a long time ago in my business, and I totally saw the value in it. And a lot of times when I was launching a new builder, I was trying to get them to mimic this type of launch. Now, it's great for launching, but it's also great for re-engaging into a high momentum season. So if you're feeling like fall is a good time for you to be adding a lot of momentum to your business, it's a really cool time to do this again. So there's, I think, 5 or 6 steps to kind of getting this to roll out. First of all, you want to choose which week you're going to start your 6 weeks. So we recommend starting mid-October with your prep, and then your 4 weeks of teaching lots of classes and like booking classes from classes and all of that is going to happen within November. You can do this any 6 weeks of the year. You can do this just on repeat, 2 weeks off, build the next 6 weeks, and then every other month you're going to start over, right? You can just keep going with this. Let me see how I have to scroll here. So like we've been saying, it starts just the way that you've always done it. You're going to make your list. You're going to rate your list based on the 7 things. And you're going to sample your 5, 6s, and 7s first and send out 1 sample per person. And that's your whole prep week. Okay. So some of you have already started this process. You're going to feel a little bit ahead of the game, which is always a nice feeling. It's always hard to feel like you're behind the game here. Step 3 is you're going to schedule 4 classes in your first kind of teaching week. So this is what I used to call a launch week, and I would have people schedule multiple classes in 1 week. The reason that you're doing this is because all of those people that you have been sampling, now 20 people, remember, only 10 of them will have a good experience, and typically 8 of them will come. So that's 1 class. So if you're looking to fill 4 classes, you're going to want to sample more people. Our sample challenge is for 20, but for those of you who are looking to really go with this, sample as many people on your list as you can. When I was talking to my presidential diamond strategist, I was working with Molly Dayton. She basically said you want to sample like 50 or 60 people and then kind of go through your list and then sample more if you need to down the road. But for our sample challenge, we want you to start with 20 so you can get the feel for this. If you can keep going, okay? The reason you have 4 classes in a week is because people have busy schedules. So as those positive experiences are happening through your sampling process, you're going to want to start those invitations, and you're going to want these classes scheduled on the books so that you say, look, these are the 4 times that I have available. Do any of these work for you? I love when I watched this video 5 years ago, and Diane Shepherd had just said, so you invite this person and you say, hey, I'm having a class Thursday at noon. Can you make it? And they say, oh, no, sorry, I'm busy. I'm away all day Thursday. You're like, great. I have classes on Friday and Saturday. Which one is better for you? It's just like such a simple way to be like, oh, don't worry, you can't make it to that one. You can come to the next one. Another reason that we're doing this, especially with new builders, is that you want to be able to find your leaders. You want to be able to find people who are going to be building the business with you instead of just enrolling people and putting them all on your front line. So if you're having a blitz of classes at the beginning of your launch, you're going to be able to find usually at least a sharer or a builder to place on your front line and put your enrollments under them. So it really helps navigate and distribute your placements when you're teaching a lot more people in the beginning. It also is really good because if you're launching somebody new, you're going to be basically making them a self-sufficient class teacher within the span of 1 week. So it looks like this. Thursday at noon, you're going to go and teach the whole class for them. They'll probably just introduce you, nothing else. Thursday at 7, you're probably teaching most of the class for them, and they're going to take over 1 part. Friday, you're going to be half and half. So you'll teach half the class, she'll teach half the class. And then by Saturday, she's able to take over the whole class, and you're just there to help her close. So it's a really cool way to really get somebody going. If this is you just rebuilding, obviously you don't need that part of it, but it's still such a great strategy. Now, in Diane's Elite and 6-week whole experience, she talks about this 5 contact method. So before you are ever getting these people invited, you're doing all this prep. So there's 3 contacts before the invitation, giving them the sample, following up if they got the sample and if they liked it, calling back 2 days later to make sure they had a good experience, right? So there's all these touches. Then after you have invited them, you have these further touches. You're calling 2 days before, texting 2 hours before. We know, if you've heard from Tiffany Peterson or anyone in sales training, that it takes 5 to 12 touches with somebody to make that sale. So this is a part of the reason why it is so effective to do the sample method before they come to a class, because you've just increased the amount of touches they've had before the class. Now they have built trust with you and trust with the oils. And that's what's going to make them excited to get into doTERRA. What happens after that is that you have your first classes. in your first week, you're going to try to book 4 that first week. Then you're going to take a week off with no classes because you're going to go back into sampling phase. You're also, from your first 4 classes, going to be booking classes from classes. Now, we didn't do the whole class teaching to show you how this whole thing works, but throughout the class, you're going to be teaching using a keychain only. You will not have any expensive or elaborate hosting gifts. You will literally be giving them an empty keychain. So at the class, what you say is you hold up a keychain. I'm actually just like looking to see if I had one. Oh, I do. I love it. So at the class, you're going to pull out your keychain, and throughout the class, you're going to be using the sample vials as prizes. So when your guests are interacting with you, you'll say things to them like, oh my gosh, thanks for answering that question. You get a free bottle of lavender. Lavender is amazing for sleep and for skincare and blah, blah, blah. So every single time you're giving a prize, there's a teaching moment. So through the whole class, they've learned that they want this keychain. They get really excited about it. They love all these cute little bottles that they've got. And how many women who are sitting there with a few little bottles in their hand are like, oh, I need that to put them in, right? They get excited. It's like a cute little purse for your essential oils. It's such a great idea. So then when you say at the end of class, like just as you're wrapping up class, you're kind of getting that whole thing closed out, you're meeting with people around the room. After you've talked to the very first person, and we're going to teach you guys this stuff later, but after you talk to the first person and you're like, what are you working on? And you help them choose their kit, you're going to stand up and be like, oh guys, I almost forgot. If you really would enjoy having one of these keychains, who here wants a keychain? Aren't these amazing? Everybody's going to raise their hand because they all want one. And you're going to say, all you have to do is book a class with me, and I'll do the same thing with your friends and family, and I'll give you this tonight. So what you do is you give them the empty keychain to take home, and you say, for every person that you have that comes to your class, I'm going to fill one of these vials. So now that host is incentivized to get 8 guests to come to fill up their little essential oil vials. And you reassure them that you're going to be a part of the process. Like, I'm going to help you sample and invite your guests and follow up just like I did with you. So they know that their guests are going to have a positive experience as well. So it's, to me, mind-blowing that something so small and so simple and so cheap can be so effective, but it works. So you're going to be booking classes from classes just with this very simple trick. So the idea is that for every 1 class you teach, you'll book 2 more. Okay, so you have 8 guests there. So at least a quarter of them will be booking a class with you. So as you teach your 4 classes, you're going to start to book out the rest of your month. So weeks 3, 4, 5, and 6 will look like having a lot of classes on the books, 2 classes a week. Sometimes those classes can be one-on-ones, but ideally with this keychain method, you'll be booking more classes with more guests. So yeah, you're just going to give them the keychain to take home. Some of us may have heard this method before. How many of you have ever tried booking a class with keychain before? Anybody? I love it. Cool. So we know Elite is the foundation of all of our businesses. If you've ever built to the rank of silver or platinum or diamond, you understand that everything is built on elites. And that's why it's so important for us to be able to duplicate how somebody can go elite within a certain time frame. Okay, so that's...
There's a few questions. Do we want to take a minute to answer them?
Yeah, sure. I has not been looking at the chat.
On all of that. It was too hard for me to type them, so I was like, we'll just hop on. Okay, so how do you effectively sample their friends and family before a class?
Okay, perfect. I'll answer this one because Kelly had kind of asked too. She was also saying, So what? We aren't teaching classes for hosts. And the whole time Allyse was teaching, I was like, I've built my entire business off of asking people to host a class for me. So how the heck am I supposed to do this? So it's genius the way that she rolls this out. So when you are booking a class and somebody else is hosting, you're going to go to the host and kind of prep them. You're going to be telling them things like, first of all, there's no snacks at these essential oil classes. None. They're not allowed to prepare any snacks except water. You're also going to prep them on how to invite their friends. So you're going to say to them, I want your guests to come with the same positive experience that you had in this class. Would it be possible for me to sample and follow up with your guests before they come? And then you'd give them an option. Would you like to do this process with them, or would you like me to do it? Or we could split the efforts. So here's what's amazing about this. If they say that they are fully capable of sampling this person, following up with them, and inviting them to the class all on their own, and they want to handle it, you have a builder on your hands, okay? If they're willing to do the work, this host is not your average host. They are capable and excited, and they can do it. And that's an awesome opportunity for you to be like, man, you could be earning commission off your class. If you're going to do all the work, you might as well get paid. If they say, I don't want to do any of that, I don't want to follow up, I don't want to sample them, but I'll give you their names. You have a class host and possibly a sharer, but most likely they're just a product user. If they want to split it, like they're okay sending the samples, but they want you to do the follow-up, then they're a sharer. They're somebody who wants to share, but they're not comfortable with the teaching. So the whole thing is really incredible because as you're sampling their guests, you're kind of understanding who they are and what their future with doTERRA would be. Does this make sense, you guys? Carly, you asked how we do this keychain thing with a one-on-one. You could, if you've been sampling them and you've been showing them your little keychain, you could say the same thing. Do you want to book a class with your friends and I'll fill your vials for every person you invite? The only thing is that they would need to be sampled ahead of time. You could prep that the same way. It's just a little bit different than in a class. There'll be less excitement because the class has been so interactive and you've been passing out samples the whole time that they won't have that like build up to wanting the keychain, but you can still do it.
So the next question is for anybody who's been building for a while and have legs with no builders. So we all have them. Even Yolanda and I have them. Would your goal be to build a ghost leg to elite? So the idea is if you are doing this process, this whole sample process and following up and inviting, and you're launching like into the 6-week elite, like basically Yolanda and I are launching ourselves into 6 weeks to elite in the next like 2 weeks. And you guys are going to be doing it hopefully starting in November, teaching classes. So if you're having 4 classes in that first week and you've sampled and prepared everybody, you will find builders within that first week. Guaranteed. You will find builders. They'll just appear more than they've ever appeared before because you've prepped it. You've just set it up and they're ready to do it. And no ghosts.
Yeah, like you can use a ghost if there's no other option. Like that's just, you haven't found anybody to put there. That's totally fine. But Allyse's biggest thing that I learned was we need to build with our committed and capable builders on our front line. We need to duplicate that through our teams so that our people are finding committed and capable builders. Britt and I are going to teach more on that another time, like what it means to have committed and capable builders. With my leaders, I'm actually doing strategy sessions with all of them and showing them their organization and labeling all of their builders. Are they committed and capable? Are they sharers? Are they product users? And kind of figuring out how to maximize their placements. But typically, as you're rating your contacts from 1 to 7, you're going to be finding those builders. You're going to be looking at those. You're like, oh, I have I have these 5, 6s, and 7s, and they're super eager to try the oils, and they want to share with their friends, and they are totally fine with sampling them. That person is potentially a builder. So it's super exciting. I love it. So yeah, try not to be building a whole leg by yourself. Find a person and have them launch to Elite. Doesn't that sound way more fun to you? So much more ease.
If you guys ever, so this is a really cool thing that if you ever are feeling stuck in your business again, or you're like, I don't know what to, like, I don't know where to go. Like, you just start the 6 weeks to Elite again, and you'll see it. And this is why, so we want you to do it with us. One, because it's always, there's like power in numbers, and everybody's creating this momentum and this excitement together. Yeah. And this time of year is like the best time in doTERRA. This is where we have the most enrollments, the most people ordering, the most people getting on LRP. This is like the most successful time, I guess you could say, in doTERRA is in the fall. And so this is kind of timed really well. Some of you might be like panicking a little bit right now and being like, I need to order supplies, and there's lots of things, but we're going to walk you through it like week by week. So we're going to start with the sampling, getting all that stuff together and ready, and start sampling those 20 people. And then what we want you to do is take a look at your calendar, and in November, does it work for you the first Monday of November, the 4th, or the second Monday of November, the 11th, to start those 4 classes? Which week is best for you? We were just going to say, let's all do the first week, but it may not work for all of you. And if you've got lots of commitments already in that week, don't plan on holding 4 classes starting it that week. So if we're starting at the beginning of November, we're also going to be kind of wrapping up that high intensity before Christmas starts. But at the same time, we're going to have this beautiful flow of classes coming through your business throughout into January and February, right? So it's not just going to, a lot of us will tend to stop second or third week of December, stop everything. And it'll get to the second or third week of January, and it's like, oh crap, I need something going on in my business. I need to figure out who's going to teach for me or who's going to host for me. But if you start this now and keep that flow going, then you'll have classes to start right away in January. And we're not saying you have to do them during Christmas, but you'll be booking classes off classes, and you can pre-book, right, already for there. It's just going to continue to just keep rolling from this point on. And then you'll be having all these builders, and then you'll be doing the same thing with them, and it'll just be this great continuous cycle that we have over and over again. So I would take a look at your schedules this week and pick which week is going to work best for you. And if you guys are coming, if any of you are coming to the post-convention tour, we're going to actually do an in-person training specifically on teaching classes, the new way. Simple, easy, simple way with a script. 45 minutes maximum is how long you're going to teach a class, with literally a box of supply, a small box of supplies. Not a big 31 bag, smaller than that even. Literally, it's going to be so simple. If you're not coming to post-convention tour, then my plan was to either do a class live, online, or record it. Haven't decided yet because I've got a bit of other things going on right now. But I don't want you to not have it because you're not going to be there. So, yeah. And then that'll take you right into teaching, and you'll be ready to go.
Yeah, amazing. So yeah, if you're wondering what the next steps are, you're going to want to get your supplies and make sure you have your list. And then I am going to be doing a call for my team on next week, Tuesday, to walk through teaching classes. You guys are welcome to come on, everyone who's on Britt's team. I'm not sure what Britt's doing next week, but you guys are all more than welcome to attend as well. But we will also be learning at the post-convention tour. So you don't feel like you have to do both. And we'll really like effectively show you how to walk through a class. And that's where we're going to do the role playing. So it'll be super fun to practice with each other. There's a few parts of the script that you'll want to memorize, like the 3 different kinds of people or 3 pathways. It's very similar to what I've used in the past. So I feel like it'll be pretty easy for us. And it's fun. Like, it's really fun. Britt and I both were like nervous about doing role playing, and then we loved practicing by the end of it, to the point where Britt and I actually taught a full class to each other, just like pretending to teach to each other. And it was amazing. But we got it down. So it really helped us. Maybe you feel a little bit silly doing that, but it's amazing. So we're so excited about this. I don't know if you can tell how like much inspiration this week had pumped into us, and how much we want to be able to teach this to you guys. When I heard it's simple and duplicatable, I was like, I'm in. Like, I want to be able to do it this way. So I'm super pumped.
So the other thing about this is Emily Wright was there with us, and is 100% supporting this way of doing things. And she is actually wanting to figure out how they can duplicate it across the entire doTERRA. Like, she went on some of our Diamond Facebook pages and like chatted about this thing that we're starting, and how this is how like it used to be done, and how they want to get back to doing everything this way. So she's fully supporting it, and she wants to know how we can get everybody like trained and on board and this whole idea across. So
yeah, so cool.
So it's not just us either.
Fallon asked, where are we planning to do the post-convention tour, the training after? Right now I have the Hilton Garden booked, where we normally do Leadership Legacy. We're going to see if we can find something closer to post-convention tour. But Hilton Garden is so easy for me to just book because I have a rapport with them. So that's what we have right now. If we sell out of tickets really quick, I'll definitely have to find a different place. But I'm going to get the Eventbrite up soon. The only snag is that the post-convention tour is sold out, and they're considering running an afternoon session of the same thing, just because they can't expand the room anymore. So if they end up doing 2 back-to-back post-convention tours, we don't know what we're going to do with the training. We feel it's the best possible time to do the training because everyone's coming to Niagara Falls. Everyone's going to already be in one place. So we just like, let's not make people come out twice. Let's just do it that day. And post-convention tour is only like 2 hours. You guys can handle another like training in the afternoon totally. So my hope is that they don't make a double seating. Yeah, Nicole, I think you're right. A lot of us already have tickets for the morning, so maybe we'd still be okay to do it in the afternoon. Yeah. So it's booked.
I will not be there then.
Right. Brittany's hosting post-convention tour, so she has to be there the whole time. But we have Andrea Ryan and Wendy Kohler and Susan Bursick. They're all going to come and help teach this with us, which is super cool. And Rebecca Leonardis. So it's like a group effort. It's going to be really fun. Okay, we don't want to keep you any longer. That was an hour and a half. Do you have anything else to say, Britt?
No, other than like, just give it a try. I definitely think that like in person, like doing this in person, and doing it face to face, even here, we can portray a lot more of what we learned. Rather than you guys just reading something or hearing the daily mentor calls. So if you can make it in person, or if you can figure out how you can do that, or again, we will do more on Zoom. Just make it like a priority and just give it a try.
Yeah.
Because what do you have to lose? Nothing.
Awesome. Thanks for giving us your time tonight, guys. We really value that you were able to hop on with us, and we hope that this was helpful and something that you can take into the next season. So thanks for being with us. Have a good night, everybody. Bye.